Next week on Beyond the Gates, prepare for shockwaves from the past, crushing blows, tense exchanges, and veiled confessions. Kat is dealt a blow. Does it have something to do with Eva soothing Tomas's insecurities? Meanwhile, the Hawthorns receive game-changing news. How will Jacob and Elon react? Speaking of family news, Vanessa's son returns and immediately demands answers. What will happen when he meets Joey? Surely the corrupt casino owner will stay away from his lover's son. Plus, how long will it be before Donnell McBride finds out about his mother and Joey? The crisis seems to crack from the smallest cracks and spread like an oil slick, engulfing every space the characters thought they could control. Haley begins to feel left out of her own life, seeing the signals she once deliberately ignored. Bill can't hide the lost look in his eyes whenever Danny appears, a confused look that contains both longing and a sense of failure. His hasty morning hugs with Haley lose their warmth, his text messages are a few beats slower, and his lifeless patience in family conversations make Haley understand that the marriage she's convinced herself to enter may just be a temporary bridge for Bill to escape his old obsession. The pretense can no longer last when Bill and Danny's kiss comes like a blow. No reason, no justification, revealing the truth that in their hearts, the old story has never been finished. Haley painfully realized her position was just a facade, and her jealousy widened into resentment, because what hurt her most was not their kiss, but the relief that flashed across Bill's face immediately afterward, as if he had just been freed from a curse. Reason wanted to slam the door, but her heart still wanted to keep the warmth that had long since faded. And it was this conflict that made Haley both angry at the man she loved and hate herself for voluntarily entering this vortex. Meanwhile, Danny followed a different trajectory of self-destruction. She hurriedly married Andre not because she dreamed of a family, but as a mental trick to punish Bill, to force him to see her happy with someone else and painfully admit that he had lost her forever. But the more Danny tried to create a sweet story, the more clearly she saw the cracks inside her. Andre, the seemingly strong man, began to doubt his own place in his newlywed wife's life. Every time Danny unconsciously checked her phone waiting for Bill's name to appear, every moment of hesitation when someone mentioned the past was like a small needle stabbing Andre's self-esteem, reminding him that he was just a pawn in an emotional war that he did not initiate. Andre tried to stay calm, set boundaries, and reorganize his life. But what boundaries matter when his spouse's heart is not really there? Danny watched Andre withdraw, knowing that she was trading a man who was willing to support her for the empty feeling of victory over Bill, and that self-consciousness left her more exhausted than Bill had ever been. The following days unfolded as scheduled, but each day's block hit a stab. On Monday, Chelsea and Joey received unwanted reminders from the past, as if old sins were still demanding their revenge. Joey, accustomed to controlling the situation, tells himself that no one can accuse him if he leaves no trace. But this reassurance becomes fragile when Chelsea begins to dream of fragmented memories, buried names suddenly surfacing in sleepless nights. In another corner, Eva gently soothes Tomas's insecurities, but what she gives him is not peace, but a thin layer of confusion, making it difficult for Tomas to distinguish between sincere reassurance and the unconscious self-defense of a woman afraid of being abandoned. Vanessa, in the midst of mourning over Doug's mysterious death, seeks out Jacob to demand the truth, no matter how painful it may be. The urge comes not only from love, but also from a vague fear that her fidelity is not as perfect as she has preached to herself. She feared that one false clue would pull back the curtain on an old mistake she had kept hidden for so long, and if it were exposed, she would not only lose her husband, but also her right to look in the mirror without contempt. Tuesday, the shock hit Kat like a thunderclap on a sunny day, leaving her reeling from the unwarranted truth. She was used to being in control of the professional stage, but her personal life was always a volatile place where the slightest clue could overturn everything she believed. In another hallway, Nicole and Carlton shared an intimate moment under the watchful eyes of those who wanted them to fail. It was not just a search for refuge, but a natural reaction to being backed into a corner, where decisions always had a price to pay, where being nice was also a burden. Martin was forced to reestablish boundaries so as not to be used by anyone, a belated but necessary act of self-defense. Ted slips into conversations with his nephew about love, outwardly a senior passing on his experience, but inwardly a jealous and fearful person, counting down every opportunity that slips away. June gets a little help from friends, understanding that sometimes the smallest lifelines are what keep people alive through the most turbulent waters, but asking for help also makes her once again face the feeling of helplessness when life doesn't turn out the way she wants. Wednesday, Haley discovers that her husband is pretending to be a detective, a clumsy act with many hidden meanings. She sees in it not just a need for control, but a fear of being left behind, a kind of masculine crisis that uses investigating others to fill the void in himself. The discovery doesn't bring a sense of triumph. It only makes Haley colder, knowing that her marriage is standing on a double-layered stage where everyone is acting and everyone is exhausted. Derek feels abandoned like a forgotten stuntman backstage, wondering where he went wrong, or if he's simply a beat behind the game of those who never sleep. At another crossroads, Danny confesses to Anita, an unnamed but crippling addiction, a mix of habit, power, and intimacy that she can't shake off easily. That confession to herself reveals another layer of why she jumped into her marriage with Andre like a reckless leap. Donnell McBride appears demanding answers, carrying with it a sense of debt from fate, while a passionate kiss somewhere leaves emotions hanging in the air, neither side daring to admit its true meaning, nor brave enough to deny it. Doug's death continues to loom like a diffraction cloud, changing the color of every passing event. Donnell suspects Joey had a relationship with his mother Vanessa and may have been involved in his father's death. That suspicion carries the poisonous flavor of offended pride, transforming Donnell from a grieving son into a pursuer of the truth, with nothing left to lose. He confronts Joey openly, not just because of a presumption of guilt, but because he fears that if he doesn't uncover all traces, he'll spend the rest of his life with unanswered questions. Joey, accustomed to running one step ahead, suddenly finds himself pulled back by a primal anger that logic can't assuage. Jacob investigates the accident quietly and discovers that Officer Marcel is hiding the truth. He understands that each altered line in the report is a link in a chain of cover-ups longer than anyone could have imagined. Vanessa, both fearful of the affair being exposed and suspicious that Joey knows more than he's admitting, is caught between two fears that interact like a vice. She imagines the moment Donnell finds out, imagines her son's eyes turning from pain to contempt, and the fear nearly chokes her. If Donnell finds out his mother has crossed the line with Joey, will he forgive her? The question repeats itself like a knock on the door in the middle of the night, persistent and relentless. On Thursday, Bill's ex sows doubt with a few seemingly harmless anecdotes, but it's enough to rekindle Haley's jealousy. Bill's past suddenly seems like a forest with countless paths leading into it, each leading to another woman, another unfulfilled promise, another wound that refuses to heal. Haley looks toward the future as an act of self-preservation, but each new plan carries a hint of the fear of repeating old mistakes. Naomi has a tense exchange with the newest member of the family, touching on sensitive areas about boundaries, loyalty, and place in a fragile power structure, only to realize that the joy of pregnancy isn't enough to heal when questions of trust are left unanswered. Vanessa's son meets Joey on a tense investigative assignment. Each of his questions is a drill, and Joey's every frown a sign that he's plotting an escape route. That moment was like a mirror. On one side was the anger of a young man thirsting for justice. On the other was the wisdom of someone too used to compromising with the darkness. On Friday, the Hawthorne family received news that could change the rest of their lives. News that created new trajectories that forced each member to choose. Ashley faced a new normal, where everything that was once a support suddenly became evidence reminding her of her limits. Danny had an unusual proposal for Andre, not as a happy ending, but as a test to see if love could be rebuilt from the rubble they had created. Naomi announced her pregnancy but was filled with anxiety because Jacob was engrossed in his investigation. The distance between the families stretched like a crack on the surface of ice. Each time she tried to jump over, a small crack appeared. Ashley was bewildered after hearing the news of Andre's marriage, torn between her ex-lover and her engagement to Derek, like someone caught between two shores, seeing rough waves on either side. Kat suspects Tomas of cheating on Eva, and the feeling of being replaced makes her angry with herself for letting her heart go to waste after so many years of telling herself to stay sober. Nicole finds refuge in Carlton, not because she needs a hero, but because she's tired of playing the strong one who can't be broken. Ted is consumed with failure and jealousy, seeing other people's lives as scorecards, their every victory a loss for him, and that way of measuring suffocates any remaining relationships. As secrets pile up, everyone is forced to see themselves in the light they hate most. Bill, Danny, and Haley form an explosive triangle where every decision has the same destructive power. Danny lost Andre not because of a sudden event, but because of countless small cuts from the days when she chose strategy over sincerity. Haley left Bill not in a fit of anger, but with a chilling calm when she realized she couldn't continue to build a future on broken glass. Bill and Danny look at each other with the distance of two former lovers, stunned to realize that what they have held onto for so long is only the memory of passion, and the reality is only mutual destruction. Donald, or rather, Donnell in all official records, is increasingly obsessed with revenge, making each step feel like stepping into mud, both persistent and desperate. Jacob confronts Marcel with new evidence, knowing that once the curtain is pulled down, it cannot be hung back up. He sees clearly that the line between justice and revenge is thinner than he thought. Ashley confesses that Andre is still in her heart, and that honesty with herself clears the fog she used to soothe her heart. Kat catches Tomas's trace of Eva's narcissism, and that moment is like a drill through everything she still believes about loyalty. Each person stands before a different mirror, and no one dares to say they are innocent anymore. The deepest thread remains the question of Doug's death. The details of the accident don't match up as they should. The altered reports, the missed calls, the faces that dare not look each other in the eye. If it was an accident, why were so many invisible hands touching the records? If it was a conspiracy, who benefited most, who traded their conscience for a few nights of peace? Vanessa knows that if she slips up, the rift will spread to her son. Joey knows that every minute of delay increases the chance of being exposed. Donnell feels he carries two stones, one of filial love for his father, the other of the shame of doubting his mother. Jacob stands at the edge of every family involved, knowing that the truth is never a painkiller. It's just a scalpel, cutting to see the root, then leaving an indelible scar in the end. They all stand at the crossroads where love, betrayal, and secrets intersect. Each person must choose between repairing what can be saved or pushing everything down the drain so as not to hear the creaking of broken relationships. Haley no longer wants to be the gatekeeper of empty promises. She chooses to walk silently, carrying her newly found dignity. Danny forces herself to stop fighting a war where winning means losing everything, seeing Andre on the other side of patience, knowing that only unapologetic honesty can rebuild anything. Bill stands in the room where the echoes of old decisions still linger, understanding for the first time that his fear of being alone has made him cling in the most cruel way. Donnell clutches the file, going over each line as if he could squeeze out an answer, knowing that even if he finds the truth, the price will be a broken family. Naomi touches her belly, worrying about a life growing between the broken lines. Jacob looks at the wall of photos pinned with notes, knowing that the next step will set off a chain reaction. And somewhere, among the people wondering who they are in this story, Doug's shadow still lingers, forcing everyone to face the question that refuses to go away. Was it an accident or a conspiracy wrapped in silence? No one can answer right away because each person is struggling with another, even more difficult question. Who will they forgive, and can they forgive themselves? Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. All the content I make is just speculation and personal sharing. If you find the video interesting and useful, please support me with a like and leave a comment. If you have better ideas or more interesting speculations, please share them in the comments section for everyone to discuss. I appreciate all your contributions and support. Sincerely, thank you.